Nisamkele ndinibulisa lonke ke ku-the chat of our news. Igama nguCwayita wakwaZweni, i-host yenu ke yale nkqubo. Namhlanje ke sithetha Ntefo Gqodo, ongumama womntana o-autistic, and namhlanje ke, as we all know, April month, and our news has dedicated the entire month to autism. Today we are speaking in opening to our month because this is our first show for the month. We will be speaking to umama womntana autistic in order to hear it from umzali ohlala nomntwana autistic ophila naye every day of her life. Mola Ntefo kunjani?
Mola Cwayita ndiphilile njani wena?
Umbuzo wethu wokuqala ke sizawuqala ekuqaleni ngomntana. Uyazi njani, what were the first signs, or was it discovered shayo in order to align okanye to see uba umntana could be autistic?
Uzkolonze is now 17 years old, meaning waka 2005. I actually would not say bad, I would say I saw things that I was questioning. For example, why I'm preschool, he could not carry his body at a certain age. And I would say preschool, I am an will note it, will try and help him. Actually, when he was a child, milestones like this part of crawling, so as it moved forward, so it's equalized. So he would repeat what you started trying to find out, how can I help my child? Then the Dibala no Antoinette. Oh, Antoinette, I need to get figure out. My child has got special needs, but I don't know what. And keep in mind, I'm a teacher, but I teach in a TVET. I don't know anything about younger children. I had my child at 32. Then I went to Dr. Paul. Dr. Paul referred me to go and get my child tested. Then Dr. Quinana, around when he was 3, Dr. Quinana took me to a psychologist. What to Dr. Mapekula? You are panicking, you're a first-time mom. This child is still developing. Let's test him again when he's turning 7. And I relaxed. But unfortunately, that is very late. A lot could have been helped. But ndaya ke ngoku ku-speech therapist, ndaya ku-physiotherapist. I-speech therapist sajonga into ye-grommets. He did not have a proper way of hearing. He did not have enough language. And we thought it was because I'm Tswana and his dad is Xhosa. So the cross-culture language issue. Then that's when we started speaking in English, because anyway, all the preschools were English. But that did not do anything. He went to an ABA. The ABA, it was like a behavior therapist. Smith. Then they started putting things, sort of a language. And then he started knowing things but not saying them. Yadlula law phase. Again, when we had to get to school, he's turning 7. You go to an interview for good man in school, Bambuzindo, he already has developed a defense mechanism. Apo aku blocker corner because of pendula. Umbuzindo, uyakwazi ukuthi after 2-3 words uzamyeka because akazokuphendula uzawulingisa. Makakhwela emotweni ndibuze bebathini, because they always remove the child away from you when mabamtestayo. Athi chini bandibuza inja, you know, like they are asking me a dog, but he did not answer about the dog there. It used to make me cry. When you're not answering them. I understand naloo nto ukuthi ntoni ufumana isikolo. But I went to Dr. Klopper wamtesta ke. Dr. Klopper nguye watsho ukuthi he's got a mild autism. Then he was already fully 7. Then she said, I don't have to take my child to a Beacon Bay. I don't remember the school. It's a Beacon Bay, but it's a special needs school. Not the Kamva. I remember it, but I could not get in then. Then I went to Wandenzela arrangement. Then he was accepted at College Street, but he was turning 8 in that year. Then at College Street, that's where a lot of things unfolded. When they unfolded, I discovered ukuthi bayayenzisa i-oral, bazenza zonke ezaa zinto. Yena, when the teacher shouts, he will block his ears. Ubona facial expression, teacher makazawushout, shout, vala izindlebe. Then most of the time he's on his own. Akekho kule nto, and then they said concentration. He was put on Ritalin. He was put on a lot of medication, but I was anti-medication as a parent, because when I read about these medications, they tame umntana. I did not want my child to be tamed. I wanted my child to be able to express. Dimazi, go to right, right, because it was supposed to control eskolweni. And then they requested me to get an assistant. Ndayifumana assistant ke ngoku wabe thi makaya esikolweni ebeza nomuntu ozamjonga individually. That's when ke ngoku I started knowing there are a lot of problems ke ngoku, because still he was not coping. I did not stop the physiotherapist. The physio said his fine motor and his gross motor are very incorrect. So we started teaching him to crawl. He could not carry his body. He could not balance the top part. His muscles, they were very weak. So he could not hold anything. When children taught, he could not do that. So it's things that we started teaching him through physio.
Another question that we may have, I know that asoze ke siyigqibe indaba ye-autism within esi space alasini. It's a very broad condition that we will never be able to finish ukuthetha ngayo, but ukumuva ke in terms of integration, how was uZikolomzi integrated into society, as well as umzekelo esikolweni he has had to go with the assistant? Is he still going to school with the assistant? And how was it with society in terms of ukufundisa abantu uba umntana u-autistic? Kukho eligama ke lithanda uniphazamisa kakhulu of people saying umntana uphazamisekile engqondweni. Iyaniphazamisa laa nto kakhulu. So kukho abantu abazawutsho, how did you deal, or how are you dealing with izinto ezinjalo as a parent?
Basiqala sithi mina andimboni umntana njengomntana ophazamiseke engqondweni. I see him as a differently gifted child, because the things he can do are things that other normal children, so-called normal children, can't do. He just sees the world in his own way. Now, ubomi bethu sikhula umntana fanele athi bona, they create their own route, and we, the society, have to learn their route, because bona, they're not changing, they're not going anywhere. It frustrates you as a parent if ufuna ukumfundisa indlela yakho, because akazoyibamba. But if you learn how he communicates, then you discover how he understands. So I studied inclusive education mandenza PTCE ndaphinda ndafunda i-honors still inclusive education. So I discovered a lot of special needs of our children, and autism was a portion of it. Now I decided, okay, then I have to map ukuthi umntanami uzawuphila njani. One thing that used to be a question to me is that at school they were saying he can't. I go to a Seventh-day Adventist church. At church, I teach my own child. I would get help from the church. I would tell my church what my child is going through. Ngenhlanhla yena, he is not that one on autism, loud, noisy. He just wanders off mentally. He is that type of a neat autistic child. You don't break his routine. You don't move out of what you have said you're gonna do. Once you want him to become, stick to your promise, stick to the rules. Any vumelene ngazo, then you're phasing him in. What would Dr. Paul Kum, not Dr. Klopper, don't do for him what you can teach him to do for himself. I fired Umdwa in Sebenzela, and I decided to bring a person once a week. Why? It's because mawunomuntu oncedisayo ugcina yena umsebenzi wakhe kanti wena ukhulisa umntana. So I decided I'm gonna cope and know what my child can do and what he cannot do, and teach him things gradually, so that even if when he's there, I don't want to feed him. I want him to be able to feed himself. So I started to those little things. And then enkonzweni kona, it is where I find comfort, but it's also where it's painful. I had one experience that I found my child at the back of the church, feeling alone, saying, I don't have friends. No one wants to play with me. And at that time, none of that were looking for him. Yes, it can make you break as a parent, but I decided, this is one time when I have to be brave. Did you go, no, don't worry, Mtanam. We will be your friends. Which you end up being a friend of your child. And my friends, I told them my experience, and their children were younger. Now, those younger children were the ones that were very accepting to my child. So he always had younger friends. His own age does not befriend him because abakwazi ukuthetha naye, conversation ayimovi. He's not on the same level. Mandate example, sebesitoti bona akakafiki yena phaya. Sebethetha into ezinkulu akakafiki yena pha. Usa enjoya to watch kids movies, kids things. He can't play a game on the phone, but he likes Googling. He loves airport. So the interests as a dibani. Hence, he is not friends with his age group, but he can sit around them. The only thing, communication ayenzeki, because akekho current mandicho. Current wakhe, it's news. It's what happens on TV. Ukraine, they are bombing each other. They're gonna kill each other. So it's very strange, for someone who's saying he's not clued up, he can understand that. And then at school, because it's a programmed learning, the system of the schools does not allow a child to repeat 3 times. So he will be in the first year, repeat the second year, by movies. First year, second year, by movies. So it was not like we are progressor. They are just keeping him. And some teachers, I should say, they were very impatient. Abanye, I believe they've abused my child. How? It's because umntana wam, because he could not do what he could do, what he was expected, they would shout. And I started noticing uti makathetha nam avala izindlebe. Ecollege Street ndaphela ndiyile ndiyothi kubo, my child can be taught by one educator from grade 1 for 4 years. Teach umntana, mkhupheni kuloo tishara. Then I became a bad mom. But ndaphela ndimkhupha eMontessori, took my child College Street, took my child to Montessori. Montessori was perfect at home. It's nature, it's open. But at the same time, the owner of the college had a vision, but I did not get assistance from the teachers. Itishara zabo were not that clued up on how to include my child because ndandimfundise oral. Ndimfundise, come Friday morning, he can write all the words that he said he is prepared for, but when he gets to school, he will get only 2 correct. On the 3rd one, he will start writing them wrong. So he ended up becoming an entertainer. Maga wrong, bahleke, yena, to him, it's acceptance. He's not reading that correctly. Ahleke naye. And I started becoming worried about it. Why do you laugh when you have done something wrong? And it does not have an answer. But that's the only thing that was common, that was bringing the other children closer to him when they are laughing. That is how he finds he can relate. So he will always do a negative thing. Ukuze bahleke. Not a naughty one, but because then he gets attention.
Babukele Kaya, we are still the chat of our news. We're going for an ad break.
Yeah guys, yeah siphila ke kulo maxesha nzima amaxesha e-COVID and umongameli usanokubhengeza ukuba siku-level 1 and ukufika kwethu ku-level 1 akuthethi ukuba i-COVID-19 okanye icorona iphelile, isaphakathi kwethu, sisaphila nayo. Ithi loo nto leyo, it's not business as usual nangoku. Kusafuneka silandele imiqathango kule mihla ke siphila kuyo. I-live streaming yemingcwabo ndiyacinga nam uba yenye yezinto ekumeleyo ukuba wonke umntu okanye wonke ubani abuya yenza. Iyanceda ke kwelinye icala ukuba ufuna ukuthoba iindleko zomngcwabo. Ukunwenwa kwe-COVID ke ukubalula nje izinto ezimbalwa ke phakathi kwezinye. Kodwa ke don't despair, ungawari, because ke abakwa OurNews online bayaqinisekisa ukuba baniphathela ke le nkonzo, and ke eyona nto baqinisekisa ngayo ukuba yinkonzo le efikelelekayo, kodwa iyafikeleleka. Yes, ungayibona wena ufikeleleka ucinga baza kunika nje baza kugqwagqwa. Iyafikeleleka kodwa ke ikwinqanaba eliphezulu kakhulu. Amaxabiso abo aqala kancinci from 2,450 qha. 2,450 qha. Kufikelela kulula guys.
Welcome back to the chat of our news. As we were speaking about autism before the ad break, we do have an autism mother who is Ntefo Gqodo, who is telling us about development yomntwana wakhe uZipolomzi, and we are getting more awareness from the mother. Now, Sis Ntefo, the second last question before we actually close, we would love to hear more, but up. How has it been for you as umzali? Because now as umzali autistic, it's a difficult journey. I know sometimes so I'd just like to hear from you. How has it been for you as the parent, psychologically, mentally, as well as physically? Because in a challenges journey.
Oh, Sisi kakhulu, in the challenges kakhulu, it has really tested me, but it has made me grow. I always say it's a God-driven journey. I always say, I did not choose to be a parent. I wanted a child, but God chose me to be a parent to a child on autism. But I have told myself it's not my journey. I'm just a vessel to carry umntana, and that has made me accept it, has made me cope better. And sometimes even if emtshadweni wam iqale yasiseparate, yasijongisa, pointing each other whose side, my side, your side, because I had a child when I was 32. But at the end, we end up knowing that we need each other for our child to survive. So that on its own has been a center. That's why the center of us coming together and say, how best do we agree to raise our child? What is it that you agree on? What can you do when atata? What do I do? I'm not a teacher to Ziko, I'm a mother. I don't do teachings zesikolo. Usesikolweni e-Autism Fountain. Yonke into edibanisa nesikolo, discovery, utata. But mna njengetishara, I monitor, tone down daddy. Don't raise the bar too high. Don't, because he is easier to deal with. Utata ukhama than mna ne-emotions. So yiloo nto ke endincedileyo.
Also, izikolo eziseMonti, you mentioned quite a few schools ezingasebenzanga ezinye ke ziyamsebenzela. In terms of isikolo umntana, do you think mhlawumbi kukhona izikolo that do cater for certain levels of the spectrum, mhlawumbi ezinye they don't cater for a certain level of the spectrum, mhlawumbi umntana if mild autistic, and then if it's severe mhlawumbi singarayita esinye isikolo, if akakho severe then singarayita esinye. Do you think into ekhoyo leyo okanye they just take it as an umbrella approach bavele bathi sisikolo se-autism esi? What has been your experience?
My experience says we don't have a school for autism. We just have people who have gone through the journey and wanted to change the schools to be an autism school. Why I say that, my child is turning 18 next year. Literally, they know I've requested them to keep my child while I go to work. Don't stress me about homework because I'm not a teacher, but keep my child, whatever you can to help him learn, let him learn. I will discover the world personally. And that is where I am. Now, the mepa indlela yomntana wam. Asikho isikolo esithi uZiko ugood up. uZiko uthanda leni. Ndim othi uZiko loves aeroplane. uZiko loves building. So I have to find a way to get him to that. But academically, umntana on autism can achieve a lot if ever we had a bigger Montessori school that has got all the features in South Africa. All of us would be able to cope on the Montessori teaching because bona benza more practical. Ilanto be mantikum. But resources with the current schools, they're not there. Department of Education, when I complained first day yomntanam, I was saying to them, I have to go and teach abantwana babanye abantu, and I love doing that. But there is no place to keep my child. So I don't want to resign to go and stay at home and look after my child. I want to go and work because I believe I can teach. And that is still what I'm doing. I still go and teach. I still make abantwana bam bakwazi ukufunda, and I still make them appreciate the lives they're in. Not because owam umntana andikwazi, but owam umntana ole limitations. Then I don't block in every other child. I allow them to succeed.
Sibulele kakhulu ku-guest yethu uMama Gqodo, who is a parent to umntana autistic. And as we did mention, uba asoze sithethe ngayo siyigqibe autism, we do unfortunately have to let go of her because ixesha liphelile le show. And we do appreciate everyone who tuned in. We are hoping that abantu are willing to learn and they are willing to ukufundisana nabanye abantu in society so that umntana akwazi ukuphila nabanye abantwana because they are made differently, not because they are disabled or anything like that. Thank you so much for watching, and we do appreciate that.
Thank you.